Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a closer look at how to create realistic looking grass for your vignettes or your Halloween display bases. As you can see here, I'm still working on the Halloween vignette for the Peanuts house. Off camera, I was able to put the house down and trace around it. You can see where that's done. I've also taken the liberty of taking some green paint and brown paint and putting that on the display. So when you do put the grass down, if it's got some see-through areas or it's not 100% like you want it, the green and brown will show through the grass versus the black and actually make it look more fuller than it actually is. So before we get to the grass, there's a couple other things that I want to do. I've got some brickwork that I want to put right here. It's a matting, and I've got the street that I want to put down. You guys have seen the street. It's already cut to size and ready to go. Department 56 also makes a brick pattern that is in the same type of matting. It's easy to cut, and I use that to, instead of engraving individual bricks, this is so much simpler and easier, and I put that on the pathway leading up to the house. So right now, let's show you how we're going to put just plain white craft glue down. Use a sponge to put it in place, and then we'll glue those down. Once we're done there, we'll go over the grass techniques. Okay, so first things first, I'm just taking some normal white glue all from Elmer's. Get this online. I can put a link to the Amazon site where we got these. Relatively inexpensive, but essentially, I just put a little bit down. Take one of these sponges. You can pick these up either online or at I believe we got these at Michael's or Home Depot or Hobby Lobby, one of your big box craft stores. And essentially, you just blot it in the area where you want it. Get a pretty good coverage, just like so. And essentially that's it. You take the sidewalk here, the brickwork, and you lay it into place exactly where you want it. You ensure that it's set, and you just leave it alone. You forget about it. The glue dries clear, so you don't have to worry about that. That's not going anywhere. It's down just fine, and I'm happy with that, so we'll leave that alone. Let's move on to the road. Okay, the road works in the exact same concept. I just start putting glue down to where I can sponge it in. You want a good coating on, so it doesn't take a lot, but I want to make sure I've got enough down as well. So something like that is probably too much, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. You definitely want good coverage. And so then again, you just start sponging this down. This is something that you do need to work a little quickly with. I mean, the glue's not going to dry right now, but you don't want to dilly-dally around with it either. You want to get the road matting down while it's still damp and tacky, and then just let it sit and dry. Don't mess with it. Let it dry for 4 or 5 hours. You should be just fine. Certainly, if you let it sit in the garage or something like that overnight, it will be well on its way to being cured when you go to get it the next day. So we'll take the road work. Make sure you smooth it out with your fingers to make sure you get it exactly where you want it. You're still able to move it for a little while. Okay, that's the cobblestone down and the brickwork. That's really all there is to it. To this step, it's pretty well done. I would rather hot glue the the curb up here versus the Elmer's glue. It'll stick better that way, and I'll probably wipe a lot of this excess off, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so hopefully you found that putting the brickwork and the cobblestone, while I use the mats, it's a lot easier for me. You can certainly do that with engraving with a pen or a pencil or a hot wire foam tool, and go and then just paint that and do it that way if you'd like to. Either way works. For me, I'm valuable of my time, and this is so much simpler to me. And honestly, I think it looks better, more consistent when it's all done. So that's the way I do it. Okay, so on to the grass. There's two types of grass that I like to use. They're all moss. Okay, this is the green type. I get this in a bag at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. You can certainly buy this online. It is it's super moss. It's preserved forest moss is what it's called. That's what I get. And then I also get some. This is specifically at Michael's, and as you can see, this is a little more a dead color, a little more brown color. Where you want to use this, or at least where I wanted to use the more brown color, was for my graveyard display. And here you can see a picture of what that looks like when it's dry. And so it gives you a more spooky yet still grass appearance. And then here you can see in this picture on Manor Row, where I used a mixture. I did a mixture of the green and a mixture of the brown to get more of a green grass in the neighborhood, yet fall is in the air, so it's starting to die off a little bit. And so that's the realistic effect that I did there. And then if you can see on this display here, this is where I just use, and this is the Haunted Mansion display, I use all green grass. You don't find any dead grass at Disneyland or Disney World. So I wanted to keep that as realistic as possible. And so there. For this vignette, I'm going to use all green grass as well. I picture this as just a small display that's going to be underneath a major display. And so I don't think anybody's going to be looking that closely at it. But for me, I just want to use a greener grass and go with that. I think it accents the house and the pieces really well, and I think it'll look really good. So with that, let me show you how I do. Well, before we get into that, I use a hot glue gun to put grass down. Now this may be the first time you're hearing that. I've seen 100 videos on YouTube on different ways to apply flocking and different ways to apply grass. I've used a glue water mixture. I've used straight just white glue. I find the best effect that I get is using a glue gun, a hot glue gun. Now this glue gun that we've got has got a high and a low setting, but I will tell you, if you're going to put glue straight onto foam, you certainly want to use the low setting. If you don't, the glue is so hot that it'll actually melt right into the foam. And so I've learned that the hard way also. So low setting, glue. I buy glue sticks at the craft stores, Michael's, typically when they're on sale. These are the full-size glue sticks, and so I've got a whole handful that I'll use for this project, but I only buy them when they're on sale. So I stock up when the cost is at its lowest, and therefore I know I'm going to use them throughout the rest of the year. So that's what I do. If you find another method that works for you, feel free, knock it out. No one says you have to do it this way. This is just the way that I do it, and I prefer it that way. So with that, let me show you how to do this. Okay, so the other piece that is critical to this is breaking up this foam. This is how it comes out of the bag. It's like this. This will not, it will work, but this is not the way you want it, right? So what I do, and this is the tedious part, but you essentially pull it all apart. You just do it with your fingers. It makes a mess. Make sure you've got a tarp down or some newspaper. I use this little lid to a plastic bowl or pan that we've got. It seems to be about the right size and works, but this is the tedious part. You just go through and get this all pulled apart to where it's a little bit thinner. And so when you're done, right, you want it to kind of look like this in your hands. This is what you're going for versus this big piece, right? So keep it going until it's like that. Okay, and also what's not fair to you guys, I started this project before I started the YouTube channel, right? And so what I want you to be able to see is sort of the design phase that I went through. So if you look here at the photo, and I staged this today. I had the house out, I set it down where I wanted it. I had the little brick walkway under it. I had some fencing that came in, and I'll show you how to do that. Where I cut that down and put it in place where I wanted it to kind of fence in the yard. And I put some trees down. I wanted to visualize this so I could see exactly how it will look. That's very, very important to do so you know exactly where the grass is going to go and where the grass is not going to go. So with that, I think we're ready to start laying the grass. Now, as you can see, I didn't change anything. This is the after effect of pulling all this grass apart. It's so much more thick. It's so much more, you get more of it to use that way. Another thing, you need to work in very small areas, and I cannot overstate the importance of patience. It's also better to put on more grass than you think you're going to need in one spot, because as you're smashing it down, this glue is very, very hot. There's been more than one time I've screamed out in pain because I've put my hand in really, really, really hot glue. That's not fun, and it certainly takes away some of the joy of it. It's also part of the process, so you just want to be ready for that because you're using a hot glue. So with that, let's go ahead and start putting this down. Again, I'm only going to work in small areas, and I start at the very front. I put a line of glue down to where I don't go where the house is going to go because I know better. Okay, and now I just start making some lines. Get another glue stick ready. A lot of people may say this is wasteful. I get it. It may be. But this is the method that I like. This is tried and true. I know it works. Is it a lot of glue? Yeah, it's quite a bit of hot glue, but when you get it on sale, it's relatively cheap, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so that should be good enough for the first batch of grass to go on, okay? So then essentially you take more grass than you think you're going to need, and you just start putting it on. Just like this. That's way more than what it's going to require. However, when you start pushing it down now, and I know that may be difficult to see, but when I'm really in there. I'm smashing that grass down really, really hard to make sure that it stays exactly where I want it. And then the key is, here's the patience part. Once you've done this and you're satisfied with that, also if you it's almost like a scalp massage. You can kind of get in there and do that as well. It helps. Once you're satisfied with that, the patience part is leave it alone. Don't touch it. Now you've got some big clumps out here that you can just pull off. But for everything else, leave it alone. Let it sit there, let it dry for a little while. I was born without the bone or whatever it is that controls patience. I don't have that. And so this is very difficult for me not to start picking it off. Don't do that. Again, I've learned the hard way. It just makes more of a mess. So just be patient and let it sit there. We'll come back to this in a minute. I'll show you how to take it off. Okay, so I believe it's been sitting long enough, and I'll show you how to take this off. First thing is bring this bucket or whatever you use right underneath, because you're going to be pulling quite a bit of this stuff off, right? And so basically, you just kind of go through and you see how much is coming off, right? You're only left with a very thin layer, and that's why it's so important to wait, right? You just keep bringing it off, nice and gentle. You don't want to go crazy, that's for sure, but something about like that. Okay, that should be fairly good. Now, what I do is I go through the edge of it now and actually I'm gonna set this down and use both hands because it's important that it's done right. I'll go through the edge here, hold it down, and start picking some of this off the edge. Okay, kind of like that. If you have another platform that's going to go up against this one that is going to slide together that has grass on it also. It's okay to leave a little bit of that overhang because that will mesh those two platforms together and you'll never be able to tell that there's a seam there. Somebody was asking that question online just a few days ago, and I said, hey, wait for this tutorial and I'll show you how to do that. So that's how you do that. And you just kind of go through and pick some of the stuff off the curb. And so there's areas where you see that are going to need to be touched up. You can see a piece of the hot glue. I don't like that. So what I'll do is I'll put a little drop of glue there. I'll put some more and let it dry and then start picking at it again. But for the most part, it looks pretty good and it's very thin. It's not too bad. And we're going to finish this entire platform when we're done with the grass and done with the detail work, which I'll show you in the next tutorial. Then we're going to take an isopropyl alcohol and spray across all of the grass. And then we're going to take a glue water mix. Again, no proportions, just a little bit of glue, a little bit of water, shake it up. And then you spray the glue water all over this. And what it does is it stiffens it up to where it's almost crunchy. And it prevents a lot of what you see from happening now. So you can store to the displays, you can set figurines on them and accessories, and they crunch, but they don't really flake off as bad. So that's how you finish that. So let's put on some mood music here, and I'll start with the rest of the platform. Okay, so this is the finished product here. The grass is on, it's been thoroughly picked through. It looks pretty good. I mean, this is about what I would expect. The good part is when it's dry, it's dry. There is no cure time, there is no letting this sit. It is done. I mean, it's not coming off. It's pretty well on there. So the true test is obviously I don't waste grass where the home's gonna go, the house is gonna go. Plus it sits down a little flatter. So here we'll do the test. I love this peanut towel. So I think I'm gonna do a complete, probably unboxing review on this on an upcoming video, this and the accessories. So anyhow, you put this down approximately where it's supposed to sit. And you can kind of see here that it fits just the way it's supposed to. So all the way around, all the sides, looks pretty good. So that leaves us one thing to do. I'm gonna hot glue that curb down, and then we'll call this tutorial, this part of the tutorial finished. So let's get started on that. Okay, for me, I'm gonna hot glue this down. A little bit of it's gonna stick onto the road. Most of it will stick onto the foam. But I think the simplest way for me to do this is just to kind of put the hot glue, a very small amount of hot glue onto the curb. there's any areas that need to go a little more, you can always go back, but that should be about good there. So make sure you know which way you want to put this on. For me, it's this way. And stick it in place. Make sure it's where you want it. You've got a little bit of time to get it exactly where it needs to be before it sets up completely, and then you're done. So that looks about right to me. Got some hot glue on my fingers here. A little bit on the roadway that we can clean up there, but by and large, that looks exactly the way I would like it to look. So that's the roadway, that's the curb, and that's the grass. If you were to turn it around and look at it as a head-on view, that's what you would see. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this enjoyable. I hope you found it helpful. And there is one more thing that I want to show you before I cut this one off and go into the next one. So it's the fencing and the railing that I'm going to use on this one, on this display piece. Okay, so I got this in the mail today. I ordered these off of eBay. These come from, it's called Manchester Dollhouse and Woodworks. I got these off of eBay. I believe they were $1.29 a piece. They're plastic. It's similar to the wrought iron that I used on my graveyard display. The cool part about these is they come like this. I got 9 of these, so that's 18 fence pieces. Because I took a straight knife and I cut them in half. And so the way they are supposed to go is something like this. You cut them in half, and now you've got 2 pieces that they go like this. You cut them in half, now you've got 2 pieces. I decided to keep these because of the ornate spears or whatever they are on top. I can use this for another sort of a graveyard fence perhaps in the future. And then this is a much smaller fence, and I like it's got the little pegs at the bottom. This will fit right down into the foam and sit nicely on the display. And so when I get those on there, I'm going to put some bushes around either side of them. You'll see that in the next tutorial. I'll go over how to make those. And then we're about ready to call this piece, about ready to call it done. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, please click on the like button and hit the subscribe button. It certainly will help us out. Let us know in the comments if there's something else you'd like to see. If you have concerns or questions, feel free to ask. I monitor it almost every day, and I'm happy to answer your questions. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.